back to the third session of Shaping Young Minds program with Mr. R Gopalkrishnan, Corporate Advisor, the MindWorks former Director, Tata Sons, past President of All India Management Association and author, and the speaker, and Dr. Dharmesh Rawal, Vice President of Rajkot Management Association, a Professor of School of Management, RK University, Rajkot, as a session chairman. So this is RK University speaking, right? Or sounding? Great. A warm welcome. Thank you so much. May I request the student panelists to please come on stage and occupy their seats? Dr. Dharmesh Rawal is a Vice President at Rajkot Management Association and a Professor at School of Management, RK University, Rajkot. Dr. Dharmesh has over 2 decades of experience in the field of research, training, administration, consultancy, and other relevant fields. He has served in various B schools of Rajkot. He did his PhD in accounting and finance. He has guided 12 PhD scholars. Dr. Rawal has authored more than 20 articles, research papers, and review papers in national and international journals, and also presented his research work in more than 25 national and international conferences. With a big round of applause, let's welcome Mr. Dharmesh Rawal and Mr. R Gopalkrishnan on stage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the post-lunch session. May I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. R Gopalkrishnan, sir. I am really a bit nervous to sit with such a big personality. I would like to give one example. In the circles of corporate world, sir is known as the Amitabh Bachchan of Bollywood. Please give a big round of applause. Those who know him are die-hard fans of him, and I am really feeling lucky to be the host for this session. Mr. R Gopalkrishnan, sir, is Corporate Advisor, the MindWorks, former Director, Tata Sons, past President, All India Management Association, and an author. If I quote from what who feels and what he has shared, he says that human beings are not normally rational. They are intuitive. We don't need to be rational. We all are intuitive. We marry intuitively. We maintain our marriage intuitively. That's very interesting. Sir is running a course called Learning What Is Not Taught. Very interesting. Learning what is not taught. And for that, he has given an example that how to share. And sir believes that storytelling is the best way to teach. Storytelling is the best way to impart. And I would like to narrate his own story, with his permission, sir, about a story of 2 birds in the early 1900s in England. There were 2 different species of birds. They would both the types of species would drink milk from open cans in the early 1900s. With the passage of time, what happened is those open cans converted into closed cans with metal caps. Now, one species learned how to drink milk from that capped bottles, and the remaining species, the second species of bird, could not learn. What was the reason? The reason is the first species had the habit of doing, learning, and sharing. They would do some experiment, they would get some learning, and they will share it in their group. And that's how that species has learned how to drink milk from a closed can. Whereas the other species was such that they never shared. What was their personal learning, they kept to themselves. Now that's so interesting way to narrate the importance of sharing. In this world wherein there is so much thing happening, now if we can learn how to share, then overall there will be a lot of learning. There is so much about him, but I would like to give maximum time to Sir, and I would request him that Sir kindly address the gathering that we have today. The students are from more than 27 institutions of Rajkot and Saurashtra region, and they all are here eagerly waiting to listen to you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dharmesh bhai. I don't know why All India Management Association and the local management association like Rajkot always give me the session after lunch. Because they think I can keep you awake. Now, you have been very kind. You're referring to me as Amitabh Bachchan. Please tell my wife. And find me a Rekha also while you're about it.
I will come with you, sir.
I'm very impressed with Rajkot having an auditorium of this size. My impression of Rajkot goes back maybe 40, 50 years ago when I was a young sales manager. And somehow I think of Rajkot as a lot of diesel engine workshops, small little pokey city. But obviously, the population was 2.5 lakhs, if my memory serves me right, 1971 census. But I haven't come for a long time, and it seems that Rajkot has progressed a great deal. Congratulations to all Rajkot people. I was told that I must speak for maybe half an hour, 25 minutes, and then you have lots of questions. So let me share with you my experiences and stories in the hope that that's what is relevant for you in the way you think ahead. The young lady whose name means perfume or smell, Forum of Rajkot Management Association. Forum, I didn't know that that word forum means smell. It's a good smell, not a bad smell. Fragrance. Fogma forum che. She asked me a question while we came back from lunch. And it was a very thought-provoking question, so I'd like to begin with that. She says, what is your dream of an ideal society? And I think the dream of an ideal society, we are not there by any means, has 3 E's. All 3 words are starting with E. This is a very simple way to remember the good siddhant of how to develop your career, how to lead your life. The first E is entrepreneurship. Trading, small business, big business, all of these are forms of entrepreneurship. And I think if you don't have entrepreneurship, there is no petrol in the tank. No point having a Lamborghini or a Mercedes with no petrol. Petrol comes out of entrepreneurship. And it is possible to do good, clean entrepreneurship. I am not one of those who believes that all entrepreneurs are crooks. I think there are as many crooks in entrepreneurs as there are amongst politicians or civil service or army. I mean, unfortunately, the distribution of crooks is fairly uniform. But entrepreneurship is a first requirement. And luckily, Gujarat gets a big tick on that. Right? You're not short of entrepreneurship. The second E you require is education. And by education, I'm not referring to primary school, secondary school. Of course, I mean primary, secondary schools. But I'm referring to culture, arts, dance, music. All that I'm including under the head of education. The fact, thank you. The fact that there are 27 schools or colleges here is a sign of education. And if you don't have an education which is beyond your books and your exams, if you don't get into culture and arts and things that elevate the human mind, then society will lack something very serious. So that's the second E. And the third E is a Greek word called eudaimonia. Since there are a lot of young people here, if you just Google the word eudaimonia, it is spelled as E-U-D-A-E-M-O-N-I-A. eudaimonia. Eudaimonia means a sense of well-being. कि अच्छा हो गया यार. I've done well. A sense of happiness. Not this constant restlessness. If you have a restlessness, it is for the advancement of society and not for yourself. People want to earn money till they are 100 years old. That's not really necessary. So if you have entrepreneurship, education and eudaimonia, then you have an ideal society. And I told Forum that I will start with this definition, that this is the ideal that we should aim for, but there's a lot of work to be done to get there. Nobody gets there in a hurry. Now having got there, you see, young people should have an ideal, something ki this is worth striving for. And it's in that context that I'm telling you. I want to come back to the point that Dharmesh bhai made, that you have to do something, you have to learn from it, then you have to do it again and improve doing it so that excellence is achieved. And I want to tell you, I'm very fond of little formulae because it makes it easy to remember. And since I'm talking to young people, I'd like to talk about the heart. Dil se bolta hu. And these 5 letters, H, E, A, R, T, have guided me through my career without my knowing that they're guiding me. The best guides are those who you don't know they're guiding you. Like your parents. They have only good for you in their mind. But if they don't hang around and keep telling you every morning that, you know, I'm here for your good. So what does H stand for? And I'm just going to run through each of these with little stories and then I'll open it up for questions. H stands for humility. Humility is a very important part of the growth of a leader. Unfortunately, with success in leadership positions, ahem comes. You're seeing that all around you in the country today. And you've seen it always. It's not something new that has just come suddenly from last year. Successful people lose their humility. And I want to urge all the young people here to remember that this is an asset on your balance sheet, personal balance sheet, which you should never lose. I was probably 28 years old. I joined Hindustan Lever after my studies and they posted me to Delhi as a regional sales manager. And I was seen as a nice, innocent Madrasi boy who could not tackle, hatta-katta Punjabi people. So I was sent off to Punjab and I was doing some field work with a very senior salesman called Narendra Sood. He must be dead and gone by now. And Narendra Sood was a union leader in those days. And I was his boss. Actually, I was his boss's boss. So he's twice my age, but that happens when you start a management career. And having studied engineering, I have this habit of carrying a little diary with me. I still carry my diary, it's with me in my pocket, in which I keep making notes. I worked with him in the market, and he would go into the shops and say, "Arey pappe ki hal chal hai, toda kudi da ki hal hai, shadi hoya, pota da ki hal hai." All this social chit-chat would take about 60% of the time. Then he will come and say, "Main tode vaste Lux da scheme leke aaya hoon, Surf da scheme leke aaya hoon." He will say something. And the last 5-10 minutes, some delivery will be made, some cash will be taken. Now I had been noting this down. At lunchtime, since I was his boss's boss, I thought I had the right to tell him. I said, "Sood Saab, you're a fantastic guy, but your time management is not very good." He said, "Aap bolo kyon?" I said, 60% of your time, actually I told him 58.7% because I had a calculator with me. 58.7% of your time goes in greetings. Another 25-30% goes in talking about the product and 10% comes in closing the call. Whereas what we have learnt in the books is greeting should be 15-20%, product description should be 40-50%, pressing the call should be 50%, and then comes closing. He said, ठीक है, आप तो मेरे अफसर हैं, आपको कहना चाहिए, कहने का हक है. एक काम करते हैं जी, आप करके दिखाओ मुझे दोपहर को. I said, bloody hell, ये तो गड़बड़ है, मैंने तो पंजाबी नहीं आंदी है. I didn't know who had pota, who didn't have pota. I didn't know who was married and who's divorced. What would I tell him? So मेरा तो greeting ही नहीं रहा. But I said I must not get angry. करके दिखाने का है. It was hot. It was 45 degrees centigrade. It was the month of May or June. I went and did my shops. I made a real mess of it. I got the orders. But at the end, at 6 o'clock, he came to the station I took the Tufan mail or whatever back to Delhi. And he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, देखिए आप मेरे अफसर हैं, लेकिन मैं आपसे उम्र में काफ़ी बड़ा हूँ. आप इस कंपनी में आगे बढ़ेंगे, लेकिन हर वक्त अपने औकात पे रहना. I didn't know what औकात meant. He explained औकात. And then he said, कोई और होता आपकी जगह ना, हमको डांट देते कि तुम कौन है मुझे बोलने वाला, मैं क्यों आप करके दिखाऊं. ये जो आपका एटीट्यूड है, जिंदगी भर रखो. कोई ऐसा जनरल नहीं है फौज में जो सिपाही का काम नहीं करने के लिए तैयार है. वो जनरल नहीं बन सकता है. सिपाही उन्हीं का आदर करते हैं जो उसका काम समझता है. Now that taught me a great lesson in humility. At 28, I was branch sales manager. I thought I'm a big guy. At 38, I'll be something else. At 48, I'll be a director. Those were my khwab, my dreams. They were not unfair dreams, but he could see the first sign of ahem coming. And he said, be ahankar mukt in your career. And I think therefore the first H of humility is something I would commend you to remember. The more you succeed, the more humble you should be. It's very tough, by the way. It's easy for me to give a speech on this. I made many mistakes. But I think if I'm talking to shaping young minds, I must point this out as worth doing. There was an American general who used a very nice expression. He said, the higher the monkey climbs, the more of his backside you can see. It's one thing to be the chief minister of a state, it's another thing to be the prime minister of a country. All the defects start showing. It may be one thing to be a sales manager, it's another thing to be the managing director. All the defects start showing. So H for humility is the first alphabet in my formula of heart. My second one is E. And E stands for empathy. Empathy is not sahanubhuti. I don't know what is the Hindi word for empathy. Sympathy is sahanubhuti. Sympathy means आपका जो दर्द है वो मैं समझता हूँ अकल में. Empathy means आपका जो दर्द है वो मुझे दिल में लगता है. And there's a big difference between the two. If I meet a stranger and he says, you know, my mother died, I'll say, oh, I'm sorry to hear your mother died. 2 minute का काम है. Condolences बोल के निकल जाएंगे. But if my own cousin or dear friend came and said, my mother died, I'll say, yaar, how can I help? पंडित को लाऊं क्या? ये करूं, वो करूं. Help. A leader must have empathy. If you people are going to make progress, and you're all destined to make progress, and I'm just giving you some companions you must have with you, if you want to make that progress, you must have that sense of empathy with somebody. You know, when I was, after finishing with Narendra Sood at 28, I was now 38, and I was the director for exports in my company, Hindustan Lever. And since I'm in a textile city, I should mention this story. Hindustan Lever, for exporting, started a kapda suti business. Our normal business is sabun and shampoo and all that. Frankly, we didn't know anything about kapda suti. And so we hired some textile export specialists. And one of them was a senior person. And I gave him a free hand. And I'm talking of 1986, 87. So it's about 35 years almost now. One day, my finance person came and said, we can't find $1 million. I said, what do you mean you can't find it? He said, the cash flows are not matching with the profit and loss account. On investigation, a little bit, we found that this person we had hired from outside had done some gochi. It wasn't clear what the gochi was. Now I had a dilemma. Shall I go to my CEO and tell him that I don't know what's happened? I look like a fool, huh? Or shall I just wait for further information? Or shall I just keep quiet hoping the problem will go away? There are only three possibilities, right? One of my mentors told me, go to the chairman and seek help. He said it is better to look like a fool to a few people than to look like a fool to lots of people. That's another good important lesson to remember. So I went to my chairman and I must have looked very nervous. And I said, "Mujhe to abhi chutti hone wala hai. Can't find $1 million. You must remember, young people don't know this, but my older friends here would know. 1987, there was something called FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. If you had $1 in your pocket, you could be put into jail. Forget about $1 million. So my chairman, he said, you're looking very pale. I said, yeah, I have to admit I don't know what's happening. And then he, in a magical moment, he said, sit down, have a glass of water. He showed me that hamdardi, that empathy from the heart. And very soon, the head of legal department, head of finance department, head of banking, everybody was called. They said, he's got into trouble. When you do business, you will get into trouble. He's admitted he's got into trouble. Let's help him. The whole atmosphere changed completely. And that's the value of empathy. That if you're willing to admit your mistake, then somebody can help you. But if you're not willing to admit your mistake, then who can help you? Is there a slowdown in the country if you're not even willing to admit it? Do you want foreign investment if you're not even willing to admit it? And you say, you're not doing me a favor. That kind of arrogance. Actually, I should give this lecture in Delhi, but I happen to be in Rajkot. Empathy is a very important leadership attribute. Third is A. And A stands for action. A stands for action. कर्म से ही हम सीखते हैं. धर्म से we can get ideas in our head, but सीखना है ना कर्म से करते हैं. Those who are studying BBA, you are not Bachelor of Business Administration. You are just being told a few things by your teachers. Don't get me wrong. I'm not belittling the teachers, but you learn management by doing it. Management is a performing art. It is like cricket, or dance, or music. You can do an MA in music, but you may not be a singer. And you may be a fantastic singer without doing an MA in music. जो काम करके सीखता है वही valuable है business में, because it's a performing art. Now Harsha Bhogle also gives commentary on cricket, but he can't go and bowl. He can't do what Bumrah does. And Bumrah may not be able to give a commentary, but he can bowl and get wickets. So you have to decide what kind of a manager are you. And doing things in action is always very important. You know, when I was 15 years old, we were living in Calcutta. I was born and raised in Calcutta. We are a large family, like all our families used to be large in those days. And my father changed his job and he went away to Bombay. So my mother went with him. My younger brothers went with him. My sisters got married. I was the only fellow left, and I was stuck in my BSc degree halfway through. So we had a big house in Calcutta, big house. Lots of furniture, lovely furniture. So my father gave me the job of selling all that furniture in the auction house collecting the money and going to the bank and depositing it. And also to close some court case that was going on about the house. At 15, huh? And all my other friends were walking around Park Street looking at the girls. And I said, yaar, ye bhi kya halat hai? Mere pitaji ne mujhe karaya hai. Instead of looking at the girls on Park Street, I'm being asked to go to the court, go to the auction house. But now, after so many years, I realize, and remember, there was no cell phone, huh? I couldn't ring up my father and say, aisa bol raha hai, kya karu? I think it gave me my best lesson because I learned, I acted, I made a mistake, I acted again, and I got all of it out. And I think my first lesson in management was given to me without his intention by my father, by asking me to complete a certain set of tasks in a methodical fashion, put the money into the bank, close the court case, and then he said, you can go and look at the girls now. Which I did. So that's HEA. I then come to R. R stands for reflection. If you don't think about what all you have done, then you're not going to learn. Some people are on the cell phone all the time, WhatsApp, Facebook, पता नहीं क्या क्या है, Instagram वगैरह वगैरह. प्रियंका चोपड़ा ने क्या किया जोनस के साथ, क्या हुआ? मेरा खाना तो उससे नहीं आने वाला है कल. And if you don't have the time for ekant, thinking and reading, then आपकी जो अमानत है गंवा रहे हैं. And we all are very interested to talk, but not to listen. It's a great limitation of leadership. So I was a young trainee. I had just come out of IIT, and I think you have a good idea what a hostel life in IIT is like. I was lucky to get this job in Hindustan Lever. And one day we got a call saying, the chairman wants to have lunch with you 4 guys. He had a habit, every quarter he would meet the young trainees. He wanted to know what young people are thinking. And then if you go to the chairman's floor, uska carpet itna takda tha ki hum uske andar fas jate the. And it was so quiet. And वो knife and fork and ये वगैरह था, अपने को हाथ में आता नहीं था, हम तो ऐसे खाने के. So I didn't have lunch that day. I just kept looking at the chairman. But one of my friends, of the 4 of us youngsters, he kept on talking. He had an answer for everything. He must have done in IIM or something, kuch study kiya hoga. So suddenly Mr. Tandon, who was the chairman at that time, he said, young man, how many years do you have? He said, 2, sir. He said, how many mouths do you have? He said, 1, sir. He said, what's the area of your ears? He said, twice the area of my mouth. He said, so you have 4 times more area in your 2 ears compared to your mouth. He said, yes. He said, then you should listen 4 times more than you speak. In such a sharp way to teach him a lesson, कि भाई सुना करो थोड़ा. This is another story I'd like to tell in Delhi. कोई सुनने वाला हो तो. And the last T I would like to close with, in heart, is trust. The whole world today is full of lack of trust. I'm not a pessimist, by the way. I'm very optimistic about the future of India, to the point that I wish I was your age. But there's no point my wishing that. It's not going to happen. There's a great future for this country. We have too many advantages, but we also have too many stupid people who can spoil our advantages. But that's part of life. But if you can't build a society with trust, then you're not, or a company with trust, then you're not going to make things work. And I'm not going to tell you an episode about trust in the interest of time and giving people time for questions, because Dharmesh Bhai tells me that you're a very enthusiastic group of people, that 8 of them have come prepared with questions before I even spoke, and the others are going to ask me questions on whatever I have spoken. So, thank you very much.
In fact, sir, you finished before time. You have still some more time.
No, but I wanted to ask questions.
Sure, sir. So, very interesting things.
I can tell you opposite things of Prabhu Chawla now.
Sir has shared on entrepreneurship, education, and sense of well-being. So now let's give the floor to students. Students, you have few questions in your mind. We can start with Rahil.
Good afternoon to all. I am Rahil Sipai. I am from RK University. And my question is how to make a deal with people who disagree with you.
How to make a deal? It comes back to the same HEART. You must respect a guy who has an opinion that's different from you, to start with. If you come to the point saying, ये फिर ये चूं चूं कर रहा है, मेरा opposite view ले रहा है, then you're not going to make a deal. While it's not a political assembly here, you can't have a central government which is fighting with every state government. Because you can't tolerate another point of view. You can't have a managing director of a company who can't get along with the marketing director, the production director, the purchase director, the finance director. And to use the word how to make a deal is not right. Use your ears and keep your mouth shut. That's how you show respect to people. When you show respect to people, the way to come to samjhota will... The best training I've had during my career is not in Hindustani. The salesman with whom I trained in Nasik, he said, "आपने कभी साड़ी दुकान में काम किया है?" I said, "यार, physics honors पढ़ के, engineering पढ़ के हम साड़ी के दुकान में क्यों जाएंगे?" I was only 21, and he told me to spend 3 hours in a sari shop. It was the most frightening and maddening experience of my life. Because the shopkeeper doesn't know what the customer wants. The customer doesn't know what the shopkeeper has. The customer is not sure what she wants. You show her a blue sari, she'll say dark blue. You show her dark blue, isse thoda halka. When you got the color right, she says, "Iska pallo theek nahi hai." वो पल्लो ठीक हो गया तो उसमें जो रंग है वो ठीक नहीं है. This went on and on for 3 hours. And then I said, if the sari salesman was short-tempered, he will never come to a deal. But because he listened to everything she wanted, he finally produced a sari which had the right blue, the right pallo, the right color, and the woman paid whatever she had to pay, and she went away a satisfied customer. And the sari salesman did not say, "I made a deal with her." He said, "साहब ध्यान से सुनना पड़ता है और साफ साफ कहना पड़ता है कि ये मेरे पास उस टाइप का साड़ी नहीं है, लेकिन बच्चू भाई के दुकान में जाओ." That's how you make a deal. Okay?
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Meet Manavar. I am from RK University. My question is, what according to you is one quality a professional must possess to be successful in life?
I have given you 5 qualities, na? Humility, bolo, empathy,
Empathy and trust.
action, reflection,
And trust.
and trust.
Trust.
Dil se kaam karo. That's why I've used the word heart. If a professional works with his heart, we put more value on head than on heart. अकल से कोई आगे नहीं बढ़ता है, दिल से आगे बढ़ता है. When you get married, you learn the value of my lesson. घर में जाके अकलमंदी दिखाओगे ना, नथी चल से. दिल से बात करो, सारू जी, सरस. Okay? You'll remember it when you get married. Invite me for your wedding.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank God you didn't say I won't get married.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, one and all present here. Myself, Shikha Chauhan from RK University. My question to you is, what made you the win? How do you define the success?
When you have the 3 E's,
Yes.
entrepreneurship, education, and eudaimonia. You know, Prabhu Chawla was here before, and he said, "Aaj tak ek aadmi dikhao who's 74 years of age, jo busy hai." I put up my hand. I'm also 74. मैं इतना busy हूँ, लेकिन I'm busy doing things that I enjoy. And that is what causes success. When I finished my career in Hindustan Lever, I started my second career in Tata. I knew my age, when I'm going to get retired, when I will retire. I said, am I going to sit at home and swat flies? Because our perception of retirement, you spend so much of your time working, you don't develop any other interest or hobby. But I did not want to fall into that trap. So I said, I'm going to use the last career, third career, to do writing, advising, speaking, like I'm doing today, and teaching. And added an E to it at the end to do enough exercise so that I can do WAST. So how do I spend my time? WASTE. And I'm happy. Everybody must have a passion. It doesn't matter what it is. Some people do social service. Some people write books. Prabhu Chawla said he has written 20 lakh words. I said, तुमने जिंदगी भर में 20 lakh, मैंने आधा अपने spare time में लिख दिया. I have also written 12 lakh words. I am also 74. I am also enjoying myself. तो प्रभु के दो अवतार होते हैं.
Good afternoon to all. I am Rajvi Doshi from RK University, and my question is, sir, according to you, how one can make productive use of productive technology to change his or her career?
You know, it's a very big question you have asked. I don't want to get into the technology bit. But I want to point out a difference that most people, we spend most of our life trying to become more efficient. Whereas you spend a lot of your life trying to become more effective. Efficiency or effective में बहुत अंतर है. Have you ever thought about it? Efficiency is not the same as effectiveness. देखिए, if I ask you to get up and approach that girl at the end, what will you do? You'll get up and walk in a straight line. That's efficient. आप सोचो कि आप दोनों मक्खी हो और एक मक्खी को बोलेंगे दूसरे मक्खी के पास जाओ, कैसा जाता है? Like the plane lands in Bombay airport. क्यों? It doesn't go in a straight line. Have you ever thought about it? इस पे आप RK वाले एक रिसर्च करो. Every morning you brush your teeth. You must be watching how the water goes down in the sink. सीधा जाता है कैसे घूम घूम के जाता है? पानी जब पहाड़ से नीचे आता है कैसे आता है? Never in a straight line. Those are effective ways. Nature is doing things effectively. We have trained ourselves to become efficient. If you look at how to use technology effectively, you get one answer. If you say, I want to use technology efficiently, then you get a different answer. And it's your choice. Young people think they should use technology efficiently. इसका मतलब है कि मेरे पास SMS आया तो मैं 1 मिनट में जवाब देता हूँ. आपने मुझे ईमेल भेजा तो मैं 1 मिनट में देख लेता हूँ. तो आपको नींद का समय नहीं मिलता है. YouTube ही देखते रहते हैं. हम क्या करते हैं? You can say you're an oldie. I am an oldie. पर हम बंद कर देते हैं 8 बजे को. रात को 8 बजे से सुबह 8 बजे तक दुनिया नहीं रुकता है मेरे लिए. दुनिया चलता रहता है. So I am using technology effectively. So effectiveness और efficiency का अंतर आप सारा समझिए, तब सब कुछ साफ हो जाएगा. Fair answer?
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon all. My question is, sir, Okay, I am Rakshay Bhuptani from Sunshine Group of Institutions. My question is, sir, how do you see India as a contributor to in global economy?
I think India's potential is very high to be a contributor for a number of reasons. Youth, young people, entrepreneurial restlessness, the desire to improve your life, education, they put value in education. All that is positive. The accelerator है वो गाड़ी का आगे बढ़ाने के लिए, लेकिन ब्रेक्स भी है, हैंड ब्रेक है, फुट ब्रेक है. That we cannot work, collaborate and work together. We cannot be consistent. हर चीज जुगाड़ में होता है. जिंदगी भर जुगाड़ करते रहेंगे तो कैसे चलेगा? So our potential to become a very great global contributor will be diminished by our internal friction. Never in the history of India, for 2,500 years of history of India, sorry, I'm wagging my hands like Amit Shah, I must stop doing this. Never in the history of India, other than for 600 or 800 years, has India been ruled as one. Chandragupta Maurya's time, Ashoka's time, then maybe Gupta period, then maybe the Mughal period, then maybe the British period. Otherwise, we've always been ruled in our villages. That's why Gandhiji always said India lives in its villages. But that doesn't mean we should do what Gandhiji said. Gandhiji said it in 1930, today is 2020. But I think the empowerment of people, today the trend is everything is getting centralized again. ये नहीं चलता है. So if you want to reach your potential, you must awaken the natural latent power of our people. It's easy to give a speech like this. It's very difficult to do. But that's the reality.
Thank you, sir.
A very good afternoon to one and all. I am Bhavika Sharma from Sunshine Group of Institutions. Sir, my question is, apart from academics, where should the aspiring management students indulge themselves to be an effective managers of future?
All forms of human relations, other than falling in love with all the girls in your class. That's not what I mean by human. You must be a person who's astute and thinking about human relations. Management is all about human relations. Whether you are making a diesel engine or a textile machinery part or selling yarn, customer ka chehra dekhe to understand how his mind is working. Unfortunately, in management courses, they don't emphasize this enough. Usko HR bol dete hain. And I think those who become astute observers of the psychology and the sociology of their customers, their employees, their suppliers, their shareholders, can become far more effective managers. I was never the best in my company in marketing or finance. There were enough people who will do that. But I think I spent a lot of my time trying to understand individuals and human beings. Us pe dhyan dena chahiye. All the 9 books I've written so far is on that aspect only. To understand human beings. Without human nature understanding, you cannot do business. You can be a professor, but not. Even to be a good professor, you need to be understanding human. But you may get away with it because you're brilliant. There's nothing called a brilliant manager. There are only good human managers.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarika and I am from Kansagra Mahila College. Sir, my question to you is, could you please suggest the main forces that kept you motivated as a youngster and helped you grow to the present level?
I thought that's what I've been telling you all this time. Enjoy what you do and do what you enjoy. Very easy. Right? You know, you all heard of Harsha Bhogle? You follow cricket? No, you don't. I'm sure many of the boys here follow cricket. Harsha Bhogle studied, he went to IIM Ahmedabad, MBA किया, but उसका दिल cricket में था. But he said, how I cannot play cricket. I mean, he must have played, but not in the competitively. He said, I'll become a commentator. I wanted to be a teacher and a professor. Somehow hua nahi. So in my old age, I'm not old age, I'm young age. At this age, I'm now spending a lot of time teaching. If you do what you enjoy and enjoy what you do, nobody can stop you from being happy. If you decided not to be happy, nobody can make you happy.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Shweta Mishra from Marwadi University. Sir, you regularly write articles and you have authored several books. And I too am much into observing things around me these days. So, what things do you observe on a daily basis as a writer?
What do you observe on a daily basis as a writer?
As a writer.
I observe a lot of things, but I don't write about all of them. I observe things which arouse my curiosity. For example, my first book came out of asking myself the question, does a leader in a business have to have more analytical powers or more intuition? And I researched the subject because of a particular business problem that I faced. I was chairman of Unilever in Saudi Arabia. And I ended up writing a book. And I came to the conclusion that what got you there will not keep you there. Analysis was very good when I was a young officer. But when I came to the top, I had to understand human behavior far more than analysis. And those who fail to make the switch from analysis to intuition will suffer. And there are many other examples, I won't go on to all of them. But when I have an epiphany, a jagran, ऐसा क्यों? One of the things I was often told is, आजकल के बच्चे ऐसे हैं. They are all selfish, they are short attention span, social media. I said, when I was young, my father told me the same thing. And when my father was younger, his father would, my grandfather would tell me, oh, I don't know what your father is up to, And every family's kahani is the same thing. So I wrote a book called What the CEO Really Wants from You, on the basis that privilege is yours to take, but turn the coin around, you find obligation. And privilege and obligation cannot be separated. इस तरीके से every time I got a question, I would write a book. And those came out of my observations. Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir, to a certain extent.
Oh, if I have not, then you can ask me more questions, but that depends on the chairman of the session.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I'm sure all are listening, and there must be some questions in the minds of the students sitting on the other side. This is for you. So you can raise your hands, you can ask questions. Yeah. Volunteers may please approach.
Hello sir, good afternoon. My name is Bhargav and I am from VVP Engineering College. I have one question regarding it. We come across this question recently, now and then, that young entrepreneurs has always some fears when it comes to the starting his or her firm. Or we can say that what challenges entrepreneurs should keep in mind after starting his or her firm.
Are you an antaryami?
No sir.
You know what's an antaryami?
Yes sir, who predicts the future?
Not predicts the future, somebody who can understand you from inside. It is to answer this question, since I'm going back, Shweta, what's your name? To answer Shweta's question. The same question came to my mind 2 years ago. and I'm written a book on it. That book will come out in June. It is called Corporate Ayurveda. What startups can learn from grown-ups. And these fears and uljans are natural. Never suppress it. But what can you learn from grown-ups? Just like children can learn from their father. But if the father starts giving pontification to the child doesn't like it. All of you are shaking your head. That's true? Your dads are watching. So, I think it's very boring answer, but your question was, what can they do about having those fears, right?
Yes, sir.
And if I had to give one answer, a simple answer, it is learn by observation and adopting what you have observed, then making a few mistakes in the process. And the best person to learn from is the grown-up, who's closest to the startup. So a Tata, a Hindustan Lever, can also teach you lessons. And that's the essence of the book that will come out in July. Okay?
We'll be eagerly waiting for that book, sir.
I'm also eagerly waiting for you to read it.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, good afternoon, sir, and everybody out here. My name is Tejas Parmar from Sri GHGDTN College. So my question to you is, if you had two options, whether to work under CEO for 10 years or whether to be a CEO for 10 years, what would you choose?
I'll choose both because one is a path to the other.
Okay. So, but what would be the first option that you'll select?
No, this is not an option.
Okay.
You cannot be a CEO without having worked for a CEO.
All right. And so
This is like saying, would you choose childhood or middle age? One is a way to get there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And the second thing I want to just say, by way of clarification, no, people are very infatuated with the job of a CEO, thinking he has no boss. That's not true. Even the Prime Minister of this country has a boss. See, when Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister. So, you are answerable to somebody, to your family, to your wife, to your children. I can tell you at this age, I was answerable to my children. When I say answerable, I mean I felt a sense of obligation and accountability to your wife or whoever. So no CEO is free of boss, excise inspector, sales tax inspector, GST inspector, demonetization inspector, sab aayenge. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, sir. And one more question is, how do you spend your day? From the morning you wake up till the time you go to sleep?
I don't want to tell you some of the things I do because you do the same things. But I finish my newspaper reading, my exercise, and from about 10 till 1 I sit down and read and write. I then have a little lunch. I rest for a while. And from 2:30 to 5:30 I go to my little office in Bombay to make my travel arrangements and tickets and so on. And then I come home and I watch TV only from 9 to 9:30 because during the day sanity has come to me. I want to disturb that sanity by watching TV, which I do. I don't watch Arnab Goswami, but I watch 1 or 2 news channels to keep track. Is that a fair answer?
Sure, sir.
Rest of the time what I do, don't ask me.
No, sir, I won't. Thank you, sir.
Can take a few more quickly. Yes, please. Acha, you are already ready. You can ask question.
Good afternoon, respected sir. Myself Ravindra Ponkia from Department of Business Management, Saurashtra University. Sir, my question is, sir, I am planning for entrepreneurship in the retail sector. Sir, if you have observed the retail sector history in the China, before about 15 years, how the Alibaba came and transformed the world business in China. So even the big corporates like Walmarts and Flipkarts could not be able to settle with a sufficient business market or market share in that China. But so currently we are facing the problems like a slowdown in the Indian retail sector because of the big corporates like them. So sir, on your opinion, what is the best way for Indian retail to develop?
I don't know, I'm not an expert on the subject. But the Indian retailer, I'm making a very broad statement, is far more efficient than most people would like to acknowledge. India is the only country in the world. When I began my career, which is a long time ago, 50 years ago, the total number of retail outlets in this country, as estimated then, was 3 lakhs. Today, it is 120 lakhs. Luckily, the population hasn't gone up 40 times. It has only doubled. So the number of retail outlets per 1,000 population has increased. Have you understood?
Yes, sir.
Now there is no other country in the world. I have traveled to many countries where the number of retail outlets per 1,000 has increased. It has always come down. Because there's aggregation and e-commerce. And I think the reason is that Indian marketplace has huge number of logistic challenges. And that's the reason why, as the population increases, more and more colonies come up, more and more shops. And we don't have enough money, I'm talking of the population as a whole, to buy 1 month's supply and keep it. People buy weekly or daily sometimes. So I think there's a bright future for Indian retail. But if they don't adapt to the new technologies, for example, in Bombay, there are lots of guys now. They take the order on internet, they service you on internet. But he comes and gives home delivery. He doesn't wait for that Swiggy or somebody else to come and take his parcel. So those who are following the hybrid model work very well.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Himali, and my question is, what are the challenges you faced in your life as well as corporate life, and what you learned from it?
Well, I don't want to go into a long litany of all the challenges I faced. But, you know, I studied physics and engineering. And I'm sure it's not different now. When you study too much of science and engineering, somehow your mind is trained to believe that the world is logical. But when I started working, I found that it is not logical. Human nature, human behavior doesn't work according to principles of logic. And that was the biggest challenge I had. To rewire my mind to thinking of the world as a very orderly place, into thinking that disorder is a natural part of the world and I have to adapt to that. The world is not going to adapt to me. Understood?
We'll take one last question, please.
Like an Indian wedding, it can't be orderly. It has to be disorderly, in spite of all the planning that you do.
Hello, good afternoon to all. My question is how to maintain a position or success after achieving it.
How to
Maintain position or success after achieving it.
You know, it's a very good question. Very good question. There are two things in life which we strive for, but once we get it, we don't know what to do with it. Actually, there are three things. One is wealth. Everybody is trying hard to make a little more money. But once you get the wealth, you don't know what to do with it. It causes turmoil, in fact, in families, if you have too much wealth. The second is having a pretty wife. Every man dreams of a pretty wife. But once he gets it, he doesn't know what to do with her. It can get tough. Ask Elizabeth Taylor's husbands and you'll get the answer. And the third thing is success. We spend our lives looking for things that we don't know what to do with when we get it. And that is what keeps you away from happiness. So to come back to your question, how do you keep success? comes out of your reflecting and thinking about what you want that success for. And that gives you a lot of inner peace. I have a target, arbitrarily set, that every year I will talk to 10,000 young people. Thanks to Rajkot Management Association, 650 I got, like Virat Kohli I can say. So, इस साल का target अच्छा चल रहा है. And I do this because all my experience, and I'm not the only person, there are lots of people in the front rows who have experience. But you have to learn to take your experience and convert it into teachable lessons. There's a skill in that. Everybody will end up in Chandanwadi on the final day. If this goes to Chandanwadi, then it's gone. I would like to share it. By sharing it, I don't lose my experience. If I share my wealth, I'll say, yaar, pata nahi kal kya hoga. The wealth, real wealth is of your experience. And by sharing that, you keep your success.
Okay, so I think we need to respect the time, and we have come to the conclusion of this part of Shaping Young Minds program. And if I take this opportunity to quickly conclude, Sir started with the 3E, with which he explained the importance for how youth can take up things further. Sir also explained about heart, that how humility, empathy, action, reflection and trust can be interwoven in order to have a great career, great life. And few quotes that I would like to repeat is: management is all about human relations and learn from observation. These are the key takeaways. We are really moved by the humility and simplicity of R Gopalkrishnan sir. In spite of having such bad throat, he answered all queries with such a beautiful smile. So I think we all should have a big round of applause for sir. Thank you, sir, for your time and the beautiful experiences that you shared. Now I request MOC to please take over.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. And yes, as Dharmesh bhai rightly said, there were a few quotations which were highlighting points of the session. And let me share one of them. Let your heart, like humility, empathy, action, reflection, and trust, be the inspiring and guiding force of your life. And I may replace the word force by power. Let it be the power of your life and lead you to a beautiful life. Try to spend time and effort on making life effective rather than efficient, because rather than being efficient, it is better to be more effective. It has an everlasting impact on somebody's lives and heart. The world would be a better place if we understand that the world and human beings does not operate on only logic, but human relationships and emotions and love. Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. May I request Mr. Dharmesh Rawal to present a token of love and gratitude to Mr. R Gopalkrishnan. Such a wonderful session. May I request Ms. Forum Chandarana to please come forward and present the memento to Mr. Dharmesh Rawal. I request everyone to please rise and occupy the seats in the audience. Thank you so much. A big round of applause for all the participants for very attentively attending these sessions. We have one more wonderful session coming up. And after that, we have a few more surprises and announcements. So stay on your seats till the end.